With today being the 22nd anniversary of the September 11th attacks, I wanted to take a moment to discuss a video I saw recently and discuss some of the inaccuracies it holds. To be clear, this is neither a debunking nor a conspiracy video. See, I am, and have been, working on a super deep dive about September 11th, which stretches from decades before the actual event all the way until today. This video is but a very minor part of that, and none of it is out yet, so don't go looking. So I am going to try and keep this video relatively short, but I want you to know that there is a lot more I could talk about here. I'm choosing to omit certain things just for the sake of brevity and because I had the idea for this video literally 1 week ago. The topic of today's video is the infamous Flight 93. The fourth and final hijacked aircraft on 9/11. Thanks to the heroics of those on board, it thankfully never reached its intended target. A target which to this day remains highly debated, even if it really shouldn't be. 5 years ago, Alternate History Hub, a channel with significantly more subscribers and a vastly higher production value than me, made a video titled, "What if the fourth plane hit its target, parentheses 9/11? You know, as opposed to the other time when 4 planes were hijacked and only 3 hit their targets. But let me be perfectly clear here. This is not a bad video, by any means. If you haven't watched it, I would still actually recommend doing so after you finish this one. It's just that for a channel that should be based off of facts in order to determine possible outcomes, it sure uses a lot of speculation and gets one of the biggest pieces of information completely incorrect. We're obviously going to discuss why this is incorrect, and thus puts the rest of the video into question, but it's when they say this.
What if 93 departed on time like the others? In this alternate timeline, all the planes take off around the same time. 93 leaves Newark at 8 a.m. Flight 11 was hijacked in 14 minutes, 175 and 77 in 30 minutes. But 93 was once again slower, being hijacked in roughly 45 minutes. 93 in this alternate timeline is hijacked in 45 minutes after takeoff as well, assuming it's just as slow. This would be around 8:45, the same time Flight 175 is hijacked, and right when 11 hits the North Tower. 93 then turns around as 77 is hijacked, and by the time the South Tower is hit, it is already over Pennsylvania. By 9:10, it has passed the field where it crashed in our timeline. Since Flight 93 is right on time, there is never a passenger revolt because nobody knows what's going on. And so, by 9:30, Flight 93 crashes into the Capitol building, or the White House. 7 minutes later, 77 hits the Pentagon.
Did you catch it? Did you see what was incorrect there? Okay, in order to understand it, let's take a step back and look at what did actually happen and the biggest reason why Flight 93 never reached its target. To start with, both Flights 11 and 175 took off from Logan International Airport in Boston at 7:59 and 8:14 a.m. respectively. Flight 77, which would later hit the Pentagon, took off from Dulles International, an airport just outside of DC, at around 8:20 a.m. But Flight 93 was different. It took off from Newark International, just across from Lower Manhattan, mere minutes before the North Tower was struck. Due to heavy traffic, it ended up being delayed by a full 42 minutes, thus was not able to take off until 8:42 a.m. As mentioned in the Alternate History Hub video, Flight 11 was hijacked the fastest at only 15 minutes. 175 took nearly twice as long at 28 minutes, 77 took 31 minutes to be hijacked, and once again, Flight 93 was the slowest, as the 4 hijackers on board waited a full 46 minutes to take control. These two factors combined The delay from taking off in the first place and the hijackers taking a full 45 minutes meant that the passengers on board became aware of the situation and were able to fight back. Thanks to those delays, the fourth target was spared. Did you catch it yet? So that is what did happen. And in order to have a full understanding of what could have happened had the passengers not revolted, we do need to know where this plane was heading. And this video does bring up the two most common answers to that question: the White House or the Capitol building. If you've ever been told that a nuclear power plant was on that list, you should smack whoever told you that. It was never even a possibility. And to be quite frank, neither was the White House. United 93's intended target was always, without a doubt, the Capitol building. Let's be honest, a non-insignificant number of people still call this the White House anyway. And again, I could spend a lot of time talking about this particular subject, but it's not what this video is about. So to keep it short, there are 3 reasons. 1. The Capitol is just far easier to hit. It's wide open and quite literally larger. The White House would be nearly impossible to hit with a plane moving hundreds of miles an hour. 2. The attacks were on symbolic buildings: our economy, our military, and our leadership. 3. The date 9/11 was specifically chosen because Congress was in session. Congress, of course, being held in the Capitol building. So to be completely honest, we're not even going to look at the White House scenario in the video because it's not relevant. Okay, it should be very obvious by now, but if you did not catch it, Flight 93 would not have been the first plane to hit DC, even if it had left on time. That is not how it was planned, which I'll discuss in a second, and it's also just not how time works. Remember this from just a few minutes ago? The times that the 4 planes took to be hijacked? Did you notice a pattern? The hijackers didn't just do it randomly. This was, after all, one of the most meticulously thought out plans in history. The whole point was for it to be a delayed attack. If you've ever seen or read The Hunger Games, then you'll know exactly what I mean. A bomb goes off, people rush in to help, a second bomb goes off. Or to use an unfortunate real-world example, the Boston Marathon bombing was the same exact tactic. One explosion, people rush in, second explosion. Flight 11 was always intended to hit first. Flight 175 was always intended to hit second. There was a 15-minute delay in the hijacking times to help ensure that. The 2 planes crashed only 18 minutes apart after all, so had Flight 175 been hijacked within 15 minutes as well, as opposed to the 30 it actually took, both towers would have been hit within mere minutes of each other. Probably even before the first responders get there, or any news cameras are watching. And the point of terrorism isn't just to kill people. It's a terrorist attack. It's meant to cause and spread terror as well. So even though the flights didn't take off at exactly the same time, the delay in the second hijacking was still a very deliberate choice, as was the staggering of events between New York and then DC. So let's take a look at that side of things. Flight 77 was hijacked 31 minutes in. 93 took an extra 15 minutes, just like the first 2 flights. But some of you might be questioning why I've arranged them in this way. What I mean is, Flight 11 took off first and was hijacked faster, but here, Flight 77 took off second, but was hijacked faster. So why the switch? Well, simply put, because 93 had a much further distance to go than 77 did, and unlike 11 and 175, it did not take off from the same airport as Flight 77. In fact, Flight 77 took off a mere 22 miles away from its target. Had they wanted to, they easily could have taken off at 8:20 in the morning, been hijacked within 15 minutes, and slammed into the Pentagon at roughly the same time that Flight 11 hit the North Tower. But Flight 93 took off 195 miles away from its target, the furthest distance of any of the flights, by only a few miles. It's actually about the same distance from Logan International to Lower Manhattan, once again showing that had 93 taken off at 8 a.m. as intended, and had it been hijacked only 15 minutes in, it also would have hit the Capitol at around the same time that Flight 11 struck the North Tower. In other words, if they really wanted to, all 4 flights could have hit their targets within a matter of minutes. But that was never the point. It was intentionally designed as a staggered and delayed attack. The plan was always for Flight 93 to hit after 77. And that's not just speculation. See, the other big issue with Alternative History Hub's video is that the time is wrong. I'm not entirely certain why they believe that Flight 93 would have hit at 9:30 in the morning. They never explain where this reasoning comes from. Had it taken off on time, United 93 would have been in the air at around 8 a.m., assuming that the hijacking still takes 45 minutes, as was the plan. Then Flight 93 would have been hijacked at 8:45 in the morning. Way over here, a full 300 miles away from its target. This means that in order to crash into the Capitol building at 9:30 in the morning, the hijackers would have had to be flying the plane at over 400 miles an hour, something which is actually completely doable. Except that we know they weren't going that fast. The plane was hijacked at 9:28 a.m. It crashed in Pennsylvania 35 minutes later at 10:03 a.m. This was real world. The distance from where the hijackers took control to where the plane crashed is approximately 175 miles. If you do the math, you'll see they were flying at only about 300 miles an hour. We'll keep doing the math from what I said a second ago, 300 miles an hour, 300 miles to the target. It would take a full hour to reach DC, meaning had Flight 93 left on time, it would have hit DC at 9:45 in the morning, a mere 8 minutes after Flight 77 hit the Pentagon. Not before, after, always after. And to further show this, after the hijackings, Flight 11 flew at about 300 miles an hour, Flight 175 did as well. Only Flight 77 was actively flying faster than that, though it's also important to keep in mind that all 3 flights intentionally sped up at the end to hit with maximum force. The crazy thing is, you don't even need to do any of the math to know this about Flight 93. It was still about 20 minutes away from hitting its target when it crashed. Had it not been taken down, it would have hit the Capitol building around 10:25 in the morning. If you remove the 45-minute delay, that takes you back to 9:40 in the morning. And yes, I know that's still technically math. So no matter which way you look at it, United 93 would not have hit DC at 9:30 in the morning. It would not have been the first flight. It would, however, have hit within enough time that the Capitol building would not have been fully evacuated. By getting such an important detail wrong, one that isn't really that hard to figure out, it throws into question the rest of the video as a whole, because the rest of the video is entirely dependent on the idea that United 93 crashes at 9:30 in the morning. So by nature, it's all wrong. It's a well-made video, yes, but vehemently incorrect through and through. I mean, if they can't research the simple stuff, I can't trust that the more complex is worth listening to. So with all that said, this is not meant to hate on them at all. I mean, for them, this is just one of over 250 videos that they've made. But the world is quickly becoming a place where 9/11 isn't even really a thing that happened anymore. And the people who are too young to have experienced it don't really realize this single day has shaped their entire existence and will continue to do so for the foreseeable future. So it's my mission to make sure that the most accurate information is available out there, even if only like 5 people see it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
I know now that we have been the same this whole time. I know now the difference has been with the outside.